Welcome back to another sinister day. Today we're going to be reading 55 history's most eerie photos in their histories. We got this website. It's by Thought Nova. We're just going to be throwing that out there because we are going to be reading some of the stuff that they wrote and be putting in the images and stuff. So let's get started.
Starting off today's video, we have this picture showing the right before Michael Rockefeller's disappearance. Michael Rockefeller, the son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller's and one of the heirs to the Standard Oil fortune, had a deep passion for exploring distant lands and seeking out untouched places. His love for adventure eventually led him to the far corners of
It's Papua New Guinea.
right.
Papua New
Thank
Guinea.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
In 1961. At that time, the Asmat people who lived in Dutch New Guinea, as the large island near Australia was known for, had very little contact with the outside world. When Rockefeller reached this remote area, he found the unexplored territory he had been searching for, but he was completely unaware of the danger that lay ahead. On November 19th, 1961, Rockefeller and Dutch anthropologist Rene Wissing, I so apologize if I'm saying
I
that
think
wrong,
you're saying it right.
I, I don't know, arrived in the region by boat. Even though they were about 12 miles away from shore, Rockefeller reportedly said to Wassing, "I think I can make it." He then leaped into the water, attempting to swim to land, but he was never seen again. As a member of a wealthy American family, Michael Rockefeller's disappearance triggered an enormous search effort. Being a Harvard graduate and a part of a prominent dynasty, his case drew a lot of attention. Ships, planes, and helicopters scoured the area for any trace of him, but they found nothing. There is no longer any hope of finding Michael Rockefeller alive, announced the Dutch Interior Minister after a thorough 9-day search. Initially, Rockefeller's cause of death was officially recorded as drowning. However, National Geographic journalist Carl Hoffman suggested a far darker theory in his 2014 book, Savage Harvest: A Tale of Cannibals, Colonialism, and Michael Rockefeller's tragic quest for primitive art. Hoffman claimed to have discovered evidence indicating that Rockefeller did reach the land, only to be killed by the Asmat people. According to his account, they decapitated Rockefeller before performing a ritual in which they consumed his brain and crafted daggers from his thigh bones. While some experts have questioned Hoffman's findings, he continues to stand by his conclusions.
That is so crazy. This is literally that is such a crazy story.
That is wild.
So that picture is what exactly like his boat?
Yeah,
Yeah, it is. It's his boat.
yeah,
Um, that's 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 creepy.
yeah.
The asthma
And there's
people.
there's many other pictures after going to that island, or at least attempting to fly near the island, and there's a ton of arrows sticking out from a plane. I'll insert this image now.
I just want to bring up. I just did a quick Google search, and the asthma is like a tribe of New Guinea, obviously, but they practice headhunting and cannibalism for
Yep,
balance of life. So it is very probable that he did maybe make it to land, but 12 miles is a lot to swim. So there's also, he could have actually drowned.
yep.
The next story we're going to do is the trophy heads of Maori. I hope I'm saying that right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. Long before European colonizers arrived in New Zealand, the indigenous Maori people, Maori, sorry, there's no N in that, practiced the preservation of severed heads of their fallen warriors, known as mokomaki. These heads were meticulously prepared by being chopped off, boiled, smoked, and dried in the sun, then coated in shark oil, allowing them to be displayed or paraded as trophies. However, when the British settled during the 1840s, they began to loot the Makamokai for themselves. The General Harusho Gordon Robley, I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. I'm sorry. Who served in the British Army during the New Zealand land wars in the 1860s and is featured in this unsettling old photograph with his collection, was particularly intrigued by Maori culture, and it took at least 35 heads for his personal collection. That's crazy. Imagine we're just like, yep, let's go to war. And every man I kill, I'm going to take his head and I'm going to boil it and smoke it and dry it. And I'm going to put shark oil on it and I'm going to put it on my shelf. That's absolutely insane.
Yes, I agree with you fully. That is so wild. The 25-year captivity of Blanche Monnier. I really hope I'm saying that right. In 1901, when French authorities got an anonymous tip about a woman being held captive in an aristocrat's house of,
Poyet.
uh, yes, they immediately dispatched officers to investigate. When they searched the house, they discovered a dark attic room with a locked door. Inside, they found a frail, middle-aged woman lying on a straw mattress, surrounded by her own filth, with insects crawling around and rotting food scattered on the floor. The stench of the room was so overpowering that the officers couldn't continue their inspection for long, but they did learn that the 55-pound woman who was somehow still alive after 25 years in that room was Blanche Monnier, and that her captor was none other than her own mother.
That is like Gypsy Rose gone wrong. Like,
Right.
literally, like, this is like crazy.
Gypsy Rose 100 years later.
No, like, literally, like, if Gypsy Rose may have, like if her story would have continued, I feel like it would have looked something maybe like this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But that is so insane that your own mother would just hold you captive. And how did it take them so long to just realize that this woman dropped off the face of the earth? Like, what?
Right?
Okay. And we have the story of the human dolls of Adelie Muscovin. I hope I'm saying that right. That is a Russian name, so I believe. Adelie Anatoly Moskvin, a former journalist with a college professor from Russia, called himself a necropolist due to his deep knowledge of cemeteries. For many years, his hobby of collecting dolls hid a disturbing secret that matched his morbid interest: unearthing graves and turning the bodies into dolls. Moskvin created these human dolls to keep them in his house, treating them as companions, or even romantic partners. He once wrote about one of his dolls, which was made from the body of an 11-year-old girl, saying, "I kissed her once, then again and again." In 2011, the police finally apprehended Muscovin after noticing a rise in the number of disturbed graves in Nizhny Novgorod? Novgorod? I don't know. His hometown. When they searched his evidence, they found 26 life-size dolls, which were actually mummified corpses placed throughout his home. That's disgusting. And I think
That's
anybody that really does have
so
a
disgusting.
niche interest of cemeteries probably needs to be psychologically evaluated.
Next up,
Like,
we have the last moments of Regina K. Walters. Robert Ben Rhodes, infamously known as the Truck Stop Killer, is suspected of having murdered over 50 women while he drove commercial trucks across the United States during the 1970s and 1980s. However, the most haunting of his crimes is believed to be the last one he committed. In early 1990, just before Rhodes killed 14-year-old Regina K. Walters in a barn in Illinois, He took a series of photographs capturing her terrified expression as he prepared to commit the murder. After his arrest, several months later, authorities discovered the chilling photo along with a collection of similar images in Rhodes' home. That is
Horrible.
disturbing.
Literally just. These stories are kind of horrible. Like, they're all kind of
Right?
gruesome.
Like, they're so short, but, like, they cover so much.
The Stanford Prison Experiment. The Stanford Prison Experiment began on August 14th, 1971, led by university psychology professor Philip Zimbardo, who assigned student volunteers into two groups, 11 guards and 10 prisoners. The aim was to observe their behavior in a stimulated prison environment. The study sought to explore how quickly and intensely even under educated individuals could become cruel and sadistic under certain circumstances, ultimately trying to determine if humans are inherently good or evil. Within just 6 days, the experiment halted as the guards subjected the prisoners to severe abuse and humiliation, then sprayed them with fire extinguishers and forced them to clean toilet bowls with their bare hands. The findings and the unsettling photographs from the study serve as a disturbing reminder of the potential for human cruelty. I wonder what the real results were for that. Like,
Right?
what all happened? Like,
Right.
that's really creepy and concerning that Stanford would do a study like that. Like, that is insane to me.
Uh,
They were paid $15 a day for their participation, and they were arrested in their homes by real police officers, and they went through the real booking and everything. The guards were given uniforms, sunglasses to prevent eye contact, so they couldn't. Also, their identities were hid and everything. Prisoners were under severe emotional distress. Psychologist Christina Maskalach expressed concern over the treatment with the prisoners to stop and terminate the study after only 6 days because people were hurting each other, people were hurting themselves, and the psychological risks that they found out leading up after this was absolutely insane. It's not even all public knowledge.
Alright, next up we have a picture of the real life Shining Hotel, also known as the Stanley Hotel. Although its story isn't as widely recognized, the hotel that inspired The Shining is just as eerie as its fictional equivalent. Before Stephen King's stay at the Stanley Hotel, which led him to write The Shining, this Rocky Mountain lodge had already frightened its guests. Pictured during its construction in the early 1900s, the hotel was the site of a mysterious explosion in 1911 that severely injured the chambermaid. The chambermaid. Though she returned to work after her death years later, guests began to report sightings of her ghost haunting the halls, particularly in room 217 where the incident occurred. This is the very room where King had his unforgettable and frightening night at the Stanley Hotel in October 1974.
The next we have the image of a Soviet scientist and his two-headed dog. In 1959, Soviet scientist Vladimir Demfikov succeeded in creating a two-headed dog after 23 attempts, all of which ended in the death of the animals involved. He accomplished this by grafting one head of the body onto another, intertwining their circulatory systems and connecting the vertebrae using plastic strings. After the operation, both heads were unable to hear, see, or smell and swallow. Unfortunately, Demikov's techniques were still quite primitive, and the dog survived for only 4 days before passing away. While his work marked significant early exploration into head transportation, the ethics surrounding such procedures continue to be debated among experts today. I can say I watched something similar on Criminal Minds, but it was a man trying to do it on a leg that you couldn't transfer a bone onto. There are many transplants and different things that you cannot do that took scientists a really long time to find out. And it's so sad that he experimented on dogs to try to put another head on another dog. Like, that is
Right.
so cruel. That is so ungodly cruel.
Here we have the Amityville Ghost Boy. This vintage photograph was taken in 1976 in the Amityville Horror House, and it stands out as one of the most unsettling paranormal images ever taken. Following the DeFeo murders, the new owner, George Lutz, asserted that the house was haunted and enlisted the help of renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. One night, an automatic camera placed on the second floor captured what seemed to be a spectral boy gazing back. Some speculate that this could be the ghost of young John DeFeo, who was killed in the house by his brother years before. I think, like, any regular person looking at this photo, not knowing the story, like, it looks like just a regular old photograph.
Right? That's exactly, and that's why some like photos you don't know they have a really disturbing backstory.
Right.
Next, we have the Rothschild Surrealist Ball. The intricate masks, robes, and decorations featured at the 1972 Rothschild Surrealist Ball are disturbing enough by themselves, even before considering the individuals involved. For centuries, there had been wild conspiracy theories surrounding the Rothschilds, with supporters alleging that this German banking family controls global wealth and even instigates wars for their own profit. Whether any of these claims hold truth, Baroness Marie Hélène de Rothschild's surrealist ball at Chateau de Ferrières in France has only intensified outsiders' imaginations about what takes place at these closed doors at gatherings of the wealthy, influential, and famous. At this particular event, notable guests included Salvador Dali and Audrey Hepburn, and dessert featured a life size naked woman crafted from sugar. I'm looking at the image, and the way that these people look, if I saw a ball in France with this rich cult like family looking like this,
Right?
I would run away. Y'all are some satanic cult.
Oh,
Keep me away
absolutely.
from that. Keep me away from that. And the fact that that was only 1972, so that was only 50 years ago. Like, these people could
Right?
very well still be alive doing the same thing over in France. So,
Well, I mean, it notes Audrey Hepburn.
no,
I mean,
literally, Audrey Hepburn. Like, what is Audrey
right?
Hepburn doing over here? What are you doing, babe?
Alright. Our next one, I'm sure many of you have seen in multiple different forms on the internet. This is a shell-shocked soldier of World War One, mainly used as jokes now, which is honestly kind of disgusting. But long before shell shock was referred to as war neurosis or PTSD, and before experts gained a true understanding of the psychological trauma inflicted by war, World War One veterans were mostly left to confront their mental health struggles on their own. The unsettling image of the shell shocked soldier clearly illustrates the horrors of war and the impact that being trapped in a trench during the battles of Flers Courcelles, pretty sure I'm saying that wrong, could have on a person. This photo was taken in September 1916, was captured years before World War One officially concluded. By the time the war ended, countless other men would have a similar fate.
It's so sad. The fact
Uh,
that it could have happened to like anybody who goes to war, anybody could come back a completely different person mentally, physically.
right,
And that's horrifying. It's horrifying that to look at somebody and just know that there's something wrong just by the look in their eyes. It's very sad.
Exactly. And the fact of the multiple, like, videos I've seen on any social media app using this picture as a joke.
It's disrespectful. It's just straight up
Honestly.
disrespectful. People have no respect for anybody, and that image, they don't realize not everything is AI. That is a real human. That is a real picture of somebody
Exactly.
you are posting online and thinking it's funny or it's quirky. That is a real human being. They have a family. They went and served. Maybe if you don't live in America, but in America, people that serve your country, they kind of hold to a higher standard. They respect
Exactly.
them to a certain, like, with a higher degree than most individuals, and doing that is very disrespectful in my eyes to people that fought in World War I or World War II or any of the major world wars that we've had in America.
Right.
And the next one we're going to be going off of is called A Student's Dream. And it's at the beginning of the 19th century. It was common for medical students to take photographs with their deceased subjects. Privileged access to the body marked a social, moral, and emotional boundary crossing, noted John Harley Warner and James M. Edmondson in Dissection, a photographs of a rite passage in American Medicine, 1880 to 1930. The quote written on the table in this photo reveals that it was this particular student's wish to switch places with the cadavers and have them pose alongside him. However, he managed to arrange all the cadavers before capturing the image remains somewhat of a mystery. That's a just very disturbing picture. I
Uh, yeah.
honestly, I wouldn't be able to do that. Like lay on a table and I have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight dead bodies just chilling around me.
Right.
No. I mean, those aren't even people. Those are skeletons. Those are skeletons. Like they are fully, I don't know the word for it. Like starts with the D. It's not degraded. Something else. I don't know, but there's something.
Here we have a class picture foreshadowing the Columbine massacre. On April 20th, 1999, the Columbine High School shooting left the entire nation in disbelief as teenagers Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold brutally killed 12 of their classmates and one teacher before turning their firearms on themselves. In the aftermath, many people sought to understand how this tragedy could occur and how two seemingly normal teenagers could commit such an atrocity. Parents, law enforcement, commentators, and survivors all looked for clues and warnings in the behavior of Harris and Klebold leading up to the shooting. One of the most haunting pieces of evidence discovered following the shooting was this class photo taken just a few weeks before the massacre. At first glance, it appears to be an ordinary image, but a closer inspection on the top left corner reveals the two shooters posing with their hands mimicking guns and aiming them at the camera. Yeah, looking at this image, I never would have realized unless you zoomed in.
What I was saying was, it's very premeditated, as you could tell by the men in the photo. But it's very sad. Like it was very premeditated. They knew weeks before the attack what they were gonna do. They knew,
Exactly.
and they wanted everybody to know.
Which,
That's so sad. I think school shooters, there needs to be more mental health and help for students like that,
right,
or students that may be bullied. Because this happening in schools, even still to this day, is
right.
absolutely horrible.
And this was when it wasn't a common occurrence for
Exactly.
shootings. Like you had Columbine, and then years and years later was the Sandy Hook.
Exactly. Exactly. And I just think it's something is wrong with the world that we have right now. The fact that kids are able to access guns and able to do these things, like bring these things to school, and people aren't noticing. Teachers aren't noticing. Parents aren't noticing these things.
Right.
Kids are not a closed book. If you want to know something about your child or your student, it's not that hard to figure out. Building a relationship with your child or your student can prevent things from happening like that. Yes, every student's not the nice student or the nice, happy, funny student. They may be a troubled student. They may have disabilities. They may have mental disabilities. But just excluding them and making them feel different is going to lead to events like this.
Right.
And I think what we're going to do as our last story is Unit 731. Both prior and during World War II, Japan's Unit 731, known for its Biological and Chemical Weapons Division, conducted some of its most horrific human experiments ever recorded in history. Driven by a desire to master germ warfare and push the boundaries of human suffering, Unit 731 carried out numerous torturous tests on captured Chinese civilians. These experiments included deliberately inducing frostbite, performing a vivisection on a conscious patient, and testing weapons on live prisoners, and even acts of sexual violence. In this photo, personnel from Unit 731 are seen conducting a bacteriological trial test on a subject in November 1940. That is so sad. Um,
That's so
we know
disturbing.
about
And
human testing, but this is a new level.
yeah,
I wonder what a vivisection is. I wonder what that is. Let me
right?
do a quick Google search of that. A vivisection. A vivisection is a practice of performing operation on a live animal for the purpose of experimentation or scientific research. So,
Wow.
like surgery,
Yes.
typically animals with a central nervous system. So, yeah, just basically just human experimentation, just
Mhm.
anything with the body. That is very sad. And I understand it was like Japan and Chinese. They had problems with each other, and you had captured soldiers. But I don't think human experimentation or animal experimentation should be a thing at all. I think if you are not a conscious human who can say, yes, I want to do this experiment, you should not be involved in it. Animals cannot say yes or no. If you cannot consent to something, you should not be a part of it.
Mhm.
But that's all I got to say. You got anything you want to say before we head it out?
As usual, I have nothing.
Well, thank you for tuning into this week's Sinister podcast. I'll hit you back Monday with another video. Yeehaw!